Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. I'm Alex Burkett, joined as always by my co-host Matt Whittemore. And it's been a little bit, Matt, since we've done an interview episode here on the podcast, but we're excited to talk with co-founder of Azure Printed Homes, Gene Eidelman, today. Gene, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to see you guys. Pleasure is mine.
So, Gene, as we get going, do you just want to give folks, you've got a really interesting story, how you met your co-founder, how the origin of the company and everything came about. Do you just want to give our audience a little bit of background on you and how we got to where Azure is today?
Yeah, sure. Well, my co-founder and I met in a Starbucks. We were contemplating doing this together, and so met up. It was in 1989, about 6 years ago. And the idea was we wanted to figure out a way to build faster and less expensive, and it was less environmental impact. This was 6 months after pretty devastating fires here in Malibu. I lived in the area, so there was 1,600 homes lost, and there was a need to rebuild. So we met up, worked together on a couple of different projects for about 6 months, and then almost exactly 6 years ago, founded a company to try to accomplish what we were talking about. And then after doing just being contractor for two and a half years, we realized, and COVID happened like 6 months later, so we had a lot of time on our hands to sit in the office and look at each other. We've already had some projects, and those projects on different sites were going on even during COVID. But all of our office folks work from home, so we really had time to brainstorm more than before or after. And we realized that we just wouldn't achieve our goal of building faster, less expensive, less impact by making incremental differences. So we wanted to find just a totally different way, and so did a lot of trying out different things. We're hoping to find some equipment that's off the shelf that we could utilize. Ended up developing our own system to 3D print homes using recycled plastics. And we printed our first prototype March of 22, so exactly like 3.5 years ago.
That's amazing. I'm curious to hear two questions, real one question, two prongs here. Was 3D printing the immediate vision, and was recycled plastics the immediate vision as well? Were you on that track from the beginning, or were you experimenting with different methods and trying to find the right method?
Yeah, we saw on YouTube lots of videos of people 3D printing with cement. And we didn't like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, production of cement is not good for the environment. Generates CO2. Even with improved materials, it still does. And that's what construction industry is guilty of, contributing to the climate crisis we're in, right? Secondly, we wanted to do it in a factory, because when you're in a factory, you work, if there's too much work, you can work at night, right? Or it doesn't, you're not affected by rain or cold weather or hot weather. So it really gives you more flexibility in terms of production in a small space. And finally, again, working in a factory home manufacturing is overseen by states. So it's convincing 50 states versus doing printing on site, convincing 20,000 different building departments. So those were the parameters. Was we really wanted to do it in a factory. We didn't have an idea of what we're going to do it with. And then we looked at what other people have been playing with or trying with, and we saw a boat 3D printed with fiberglass, right? We saw plumbing pipes or water pipes 3D printed with plastic. So it really was that thinking through. And then, of course, when we zeroed in on plastic and fiberglass, we said, why not recycle plastic? Why do we need to generate, as is, the world generates some 380 million tons of plastic a year and don't know what to do with it. Only less than 5% gets recycled. So 5% of 380 million is a lot of recycled plastic. So really, it was more by first decision was to do it in the factory. Secondly, was to find a material that's lighter. And the other thing is cement. If you print it in the factory, it'll crack by the time it gets delivered. It's very heavy. So it was really by just trying different things and talking to different people, and then just trying them.
And Gene, you talked a little bit about, there with the factory starting up and some of the maybe production challenges, just what was that like, going from, we have an idea in our head, we're trying to come up with a solution, like building and having to make your own piece of equipment to run this. There was no blueprint, there was nobody doing this when you guys first started. How was that kind of finding that footing?
It was difficult. This is my fourth startup, never in manufacturing, and my business partner also had a startup, but all around construction and building. So getting into a new field was difficult. So we started out with just renting a small warehouse, and in terms of equipment, we bought certain piece of equipment off the shelf, like a robotic arm. Those are industrial robotic arms. Use them in auto manufacturing, right? And extruders. Extruders are a piece of equipment that melt. So they've been used in 3D printing. But the challenge was we couldn't find anything that could print a tall enough structure. So, you just don't want to print a tiny home with a very low ceiling, right? So you want to print 10.5, our goal was 10.5 feet. And even that was, usually the chassis that tiny home comes on is 3 feet tall. So, and the ramps on the freeways are 13.5 to 14.5. So we want to use the maximum that's allowed, like 10.5 feet tall. And of course, we wanted to make them long, 20 feet long is what our goal was, and 9 to 10 feet wide. So that they could drive down the freeway. So again, couldn't find anything. So there are a lot of parts that are being printed in aerospace and automotive, but in every instance they're no more than like 3 feet tall. So what we needed to do was to figure out, and so we invented a piece of equipment that kind of rotates the part, and of course the software that now manages 4 or 5 different pieces of equipment to make parts so we could print in one go something that's large. It's in 3D printing it's called printing large parts. it's literally probably the biggest part that gets 3D printed. Now, there are a lot of things that 3D printed that now look like big parts. So, like, for example, a torch in a Las Vegas Raiders stadium is 3D printed, but it's printed with small pieces and they're either glued together or put together. And our goal was to find something that can be waterproof and also energy efficient. So combining parts, creates issues in that department. So that was a challenge.
Super interesting. Thanks for diving in there. So we have a little bit of a format here, right? We do the one big thing, which is news based, and one big thing. You've probably got 3 big things or 100 big things going on for Azure as we speak right now, so I kind of want to dive in there. Really, some timely things happening. You guys were listed in the Time 100 an invention list that covers different areas. What an accomplishment. Congrats to you on that. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that meant for you, what that process was like?
Yeah. Well, again, when we started out, we were not looking for necessarily recognitions. We're just looking for customers, right? It's like first things first. And our first customer, so again, back to March 22, we were able to print our first little backyard studio. It was like 9 feet wide, 13 feet long, tall. And quite honestly, the first piece, we couldn't do it in one piece. We did it in 3 pieces and just glue them together. But it was attractive. I mean, the 3D printing allows to do curves, allows to do unusual shapes that traditional construction doesn't. Usually you're limited by a 2x4, right? So now we can don't have to have squares or rectangular structures. And so we posted a video, a image of that on Facebook, and a few weeks later, and again we had different ideas. During COVID, backyard studios, where people work from home, they were popular, right? But the first customer pulled up was his buddy, both of them on Harleys, and they just go so excited. They said, look, we need it to be this size, and when can we have it? I said, why do you need it bigger, and what do you have in mind? And he said, well, we have a glamping resort. And honestly, I put my phone under my conference room table and Googled what glamping means. So this was just 3.5 years ago. I had no idea what it was. So that was our first customer, and we delivered the unit, and he paid. He wanted every upgrade. He wanted to have very high-end finishes, and of course wanted to be solar because it's off grid. And we've done all of that, and so a unit that retails for $39,900, he paid $65,000 for, because he wanted to have every option that was available. And we delivered it, and he rents it since then for $750 a night. So he got his money back in 5 months. So he knew exactly what he was talking about. But that was the exciting part of our journey, is this and other instances of so we kind of invented the technology, and now people have their own ideas what they're going to use it for. That is, I've done other startups, and usually you come up with an idea and then try to sell it, right? In this instance, it was coming up with an idea, and people have their own vision of what can a unique product like this deliver, and so you mentioned it, Matt. We were in Time Magazine list of inventions for 25, which is really a big deal. I mean, this is where Waymo and Tesla and the Google first appeared. So it's nice to be in that company. I just came back from Tokyo, and we won the pitch competition for the Build World's Global Summit. On and Fast Company recognizes. So it's cool because, first 3 years we couldn't get any recognition. We just thought we're either doing something great or something crazy, right? Because we still get customers. And of course, early adopters are unique people. They're the ones who have the vision and see what we have. But to take it into a mainstream really takes more of the widespread recognition, so that people who work with governments, people who work with larger organizations now feel less risk than just buying something that nobody ever heard of. So that's what recognition is really helping us getting larger customers. And so now we're delivering units for San Luis Obispo County, and that's going to be used for the interim housing for the homeless, which is kind of our passion. We got to solve this crisis. Just 2 days ago, a large glamping resort that'll use 30 of our units received approval from a planning commission near Joshua Tree. Again, a lot of discussion during the public hearing about, on one hand, like what in the world are you going to do, to wow, this is so cool. We'd love our kids to be able to learn how to have, because we're going to use for that resort, we're going to use about 4.5 million equivalent of 4.5 million empty water bottles, right? So instead of them going into landfills to produce something that's very useful. So again, the chair of the commission, from many questions on what in the world we're doing, to then having her own idea of saying, can we make sure that there is some educational component to what you do, so that our kids can imagine of how to use something that that's kind of waste for something that's very useful. So it's an incredible journey, just very lucky to be part of it, and so many other. We now have over 2,000 investors who invested in the company, and they're following along with us. It's equivalent of like if all of us had a chance to invest in Tesla or in SpaceX. Wow, that would have been great, right? At a low valuation, but most of the people never did because Elon Musk was successful, and between his own money and VCs, they're the ones who benefited the most. But with us, 3.5 years ago, raising money from VCs was very difficult. We didn't have a lot of experience with that, and so we just started crowdfunding campaign. So again, this week I received an award from Crowdfunding Association for having a cool startup. But what was recognized there that we have 2,000 plus people who've been able to invest kind of to come in at ground up, and our campaign closes on October 27th at midnight. So there is still a chance for people to invest at a very reasonable valuation and join our journey on this ride.
Absolutely. And Gene, I know you hit on the 29 Palms project. I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit more there. Obviously, you talked about kind of the 30-unit resort coming to life, your partnership with some of the more traditional home builders in that sense. And, that's definitely a project that, although you guys have delivered units in multiple states and in multiple different areas, you work with, traditional housing, ADUs, primary home builders, all kinds of applications. Obviously, Matt and I participate in the outdoor hospitality and the glamping space. So what was it about that space that was either attractive to you or where you thought that Azure could really fit into that? I think, as Matt and I talk about on the show, there's such a wide diversity of things that fit into the glamping realm. And obviously, you're a really unique part of that. So can you just hit on that project in particular and in your kind of participation in the glamping space?
Yeah. No, Alex, a good question. We really attribute a huge part of our success to the glamping industry, outdoor hospitality. Because from first customer I described to we now shipped glamping units to 6 different states. In addition to California, we have a resort near Colorado Springs. We shipped some units to Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina. So the glamping industry was one of the early adopters because I think what we see just becoming much more involved in the industry and being at the glamping shows and outdoor hospitality industry shows, the industry really cares about sustainability. And so, the operators care about it, the people who use the units care about it. So that's right along the line. Industry loves something that can be done right away. Again, so many of our orders come from not something that's planned 3 years in advance. Now, this project in 29 Palms, it's been in the works for 18 months, but for the whole community. But most of the time, people can buy 1 to 3 units very quickly. They see a demand and season is coming, and they make so quick decisions, sustainability focus. Entrepreneurs, we work with so many entrepreneurs, and again, much entrepreneurs have the vision and want to try to execute it much quicker than say big companies, right? And then what we also love is the fact that when somebody buys one of the units, then people stay in their units. It's like if you build somebody's ADU or units for homeless, you're not going to have future customers go and stay in them, right? But in outdoor hospitality, people stay in them. You can't imagine how many people call us that we stayed in a unit in Big Sur. I'm interested in one for my backyard. So it's all of those things that really we've embraced the industry, and the industry quite honestly embraced us. And we are really. I'm going to Saudi Arabia in November, and there's a lot of development out there they're preparing for Asian Winter Games. So they want to put out resorts, and this is going to be like in a couple of years. They don't have any snow yet. They don't have any units yet, but they're talking to us about possibly providing units for that. Now, shipping them would be very expensive, but we're exploring ways to either manufacture locally or ship in parts and stuff like that. So, I'm also part of an incredible network, something called Eco Resorts International. I mean, it's a group of people from around the world, and I've attended a couple of their meetings. This spring it was in Greece, and last year in in Africa, and there are so many people who are developing eco resorts around the globe love what we're doing. So it's really just a matter of figuring out how to scale our manufacturing, not only just in the U.S. but also overseas. And we're actively. I did take my previous startup global. I started in the U.S. and had operations in Middle East, Asia, and Europe, and we're exploring that as well. So the goal is for, in 2026 we're opening a factory in Colorado. It'll open by March 1. And then hopefully by the end of the year we'll find we want to be closer to you guys in East Coast and the Midwest. So the goal is to find locations that we can open the end of 26, early 27, around the country. Just again, along sustainability. It's like you can't say you're sustainable when you're tracking your unit 3,200 miles away from here to South Carolina, right? So we want to be closer to where they are. We also, by having these micro factories in local, like the insulation that's required in upstate New York or Michigan is much higher than what's required in California. So we can do that now by adjusting, but if we're just manufacturing in Midwest or Northeast, we'll just be set to have higher insulation. We'll be set to have units that, where the snow can slide off the roofs. So anyway, there is few customizations that we can do pretty much anything. I mean, they're highly customizable, but if we have more regional manufacturing, then units coming out from those factories will be just from a get-go. Again, it'll just be optimized. But in 27, 28, we're hoping to go global. So we're exploring locations in Europe and Asia and Middle East, so that we can, because there is enough plastic everywhere. So the raw material is there, and a lot of interest is there. So it's just really figuring out how to scale this globally.
So we had touched on the fundraising campaign. I want to dig in a little bit there. It's on Refunder. So we send out a newsletter about all of this. So timely episode here. We're going to hurry up and edit this and get it out, because it'll be about 30 hours or so until that closes. I think it's an exciting opportunity, unique opportunity. What jumps out to me is that, like, as Alex put, we're on the hospitality side of the business, but that's just a part of what you do. We've seen that pitch sort of from some companies in the hospitality space, but quite frankly, with products that don't fit the application for anything else. They're not insulated. They're tents. I think people know that that's a good pitch, but it feels like you're actually backing that up. So kudos to you. I'm curious on the fundraising campaign. What's the goal of, right, and what's the use of those funds?
Yeah.
Is it expansion? Is it more capacity? What's the use of those funds?
Yeah, very good question. So we, the challenge again 3.5 years ago was to raise money. Is the majority of the first $5 million was to go to expand our factory. So we've gone from a little office to a small warehouse to a bigger warehouse. The future expansion is not going to be as capital intensive because, like the state of Colorado is providing 80% of the funding to open a factory because they want to bring more affordable housing to their state. And so we're going to look at other states that do that. So in some respect, the growth is going to be less capital intensive. But where we want to focus is do additional R&D on material. So we want to develop material that's much more fire resistant, that's strong enough where we can go multi-story. So that's a big part of R&D, really, in material science. We want to, we pretty much are still, we've experimented, we've tried 3 or 4 different materials, but we're still back to exactly where we started. But even beginning next week, we've come up with some different formulations that we'll test and print. Just what I said, to try to improve our material. We have a client who wants us to do in early spring go multi-story. So again, we can make it with our material, but I think we can, maybe we can improve a little. It can be even better. So R&D, and then expanding our team. Big opportunity for us, and just opportunity to help lots of people, is fires that we've had here in LA. You remember I mentioned we've lost 1,600 homes in Malibu. It was devastating. And at that time, when people were said, let's be ready for the next fire, and I said, what happens if another 1,600 homes? And at that time I said, look, next one is probably going to be 3 times as bad. Well, the reality, the next one is 10 times as bad. I mean, from 1,600 homes, 6.5 years ago, we now lost 16,000 homes, in Palisades and Altadena. So it's 10 times as bad, and unfortunately, again, the next one is going to happen. Could be a lot worse. So we are very actively involved in rebuilding homes that were lost. So again, kudos go to my business partner and his design team. We've now designed units that we can build up to 5,000 square feet homes. So first couple of homes are going to be over 2,000 square feet, again, using our modules. So what's going to happen is our Southern California facility is just going to focus on rebuilding, and then Colorado will start producing for the rest of the country, and then until we open other locations. But even with states providing, say, 80%, still 20% we got to put in. So that's the other use of funds. We're expanding our team. We pretty much, my business partner and I have been doing most of the sales. And again, selling to B2B, kind of to entrepreneurs, to businesses, is kind of a little bit easier. But with our Southern California customers, it's all B2C. It's individual owners. And they require a lot more hand-holding. A lot of them are elderly. They've lived in the same house for 35 years and now need help with getting permits, figuring out the costs, dealing with insurance companies. So building out kind of our B2C team. We just had, 2 weeks ago, had a head of impact to really see how we can maintain our sustainability. And she's terrific. She comes from that industry. So yeah, it's really expanding our team and developing new materials and new designs where the money will go.
Love it. So we'll put a link to the refunder in the newsletter. We're going to put another link on the podcast in the show notes, and we'll send out an email to all the subscribers. So make sure you check that out. We try to give tactical takeaways and frameworks and advice to operators in our space, right? We are in the outdoor hospitality industry. There's been a lot of really great nuggets in the conversation so far. I'd love to dive in there, right? I would assume we're going to have people reaching out with questions. I think top of mind, you already touched on some things, is how much does it cost? How long is it going to take to get some, right? What's the current production timeline, turnaround times? Could you dive in a little bit there? What kind of offerings do you have? What do they cost? And if somebody were to place an order tomorrow, when can they expect to get a glamping unit?
Yeah, it's all great questions. Park model is like 180 square feet. It goes for $49,900. That comes with a chassis and wheels. The one that's can be attached to foundation is $49,900. It's $39,900. There are some extra options like solar and stuff, but still very reasonable. The largest unit for the industry we make is a park model that's just under 400 square feet, and that goes for like $95,000. So again, very reasonable. And we use ANSI certification. Again, we find that in the industry, ANSI is the highest level certification. Inspector comes and checks out every unit before it leaves the factory. So a lot of peace of mind for the operator, and provide 10-year structural warranty. Again, kind of the top. We're in California. California is the most regulated state. If you can build it here, you can build it anywhere. But the reality is, our customers will have very good experience with these units. In terms of the timing, I used to say that if you order one today, you can move in next month. Because it takes us only 24 hours to print a module. The backup comes when installing all the kitchens and bathrooms and all the finishings. So it takes us 3 to 4 weeks to finish unit from beginning to end. We have quite a bit of a backlog. And so if you were to place an order today, you wouldn't be able to move in next month. But you would be able to move in 60 days from now. I mean, so we've just, beginning of October, we've gone to 2 shifts. So we now work days and nights. And we also have flexibility to start working weekends. We now work just Saturdays. We have lots of people who love working here. So really, we can make it a lot faster than you would be ready. I mean, I prove this to myself over and over. I tell customers, it'll be finished before you're ready for it. It goes, oh yeah, we'll get ready, and then we deliver the unit, and it's not ready. You need to have your foundation, you need to have your utilities brought to because they come pretty much 90 to 95% finished. So just connecting to utilities. But a lot of glamping sites don't have sewer, so you need to work on septic, and septic can't be done overnight. So pretty much we can meet the timelines, and by March, so now it's probably maybe 60 days from the placing an order, but come March we'll be back to 30 days, we've gone from doing 1 to 3 units to this project we're finishing in the middle of December is 62 units. So we've gone to pretty larger scale developments, we have capacity, so capacity is not an issue. And we also have some financing available for part models as well, as little as 10% down payment. We don't provide ourselves, one of our financial partners does that. But, again, with lower interest rates, this is a prime opportunity. And people love going out in the nature and staying in something that's very luxurious, So I've now stayed at half a dozen glamping resorts, from not knowing what glamping means to really just enjoying the experience. You can really have a great time, be out, I'm big into exercise, walking, hiking, running, and then come and ability to take a nice hot shower. So it's kind of a new level of experience, and the fact that they're so weather-proof, they're so well insulated. So even in like Michigan and New York, where you guys are, you could extend the number of months that customers can use it, have different experiences. So I'm just very, very interested for this to be a win-win for our customers. So it's not just selling the product and saying goodbye, but really exploring how can people benefit from this, both the customers and the ultimate customers, the consumers. And I really believe that the units are also very quiet because they're so well insulated. So you could have a unit like. Our factory is next to a very busy street, but our model stays right on the street. You close the door, you can't hear anything. So another advantage. So I have one customer who bought the unit, and he's right by the major freeway, and it's totally nice and quiet inside. So lots of additional things that we haven't even thought about, and that customers can really benefit.
Gene, this was an amazing conversation today. I'm just going to rattle off a few things that we've talked about today as we start to recap. So Azure is a Time 100 Best Inventions winner. You've got an amazing glamping project in 29 Palms, a proven track record here in multiple states, obviously sustainable production and a very sustainable product using recycled plastic. You've obviously are going to be continuing to expand your team with this additional funding in multiple markets, custom machinery and production. I mean, it sounds like, again, you guys have, that's a small laundry list of things that I rattled off there. As we start to wrap up, just other than the WeFunder link that we mentioned that we'll certainly post below, where can people just go to reach out if they want to connect with you, connect with your team, and just learn more about what's on the roadmap for Azure down the road?
Yeah. Well, our website is the best place. We try to really, and we're making some improvements to it so that people can easily find information that they can get. And right now they can see the units on wheels. They can even customize their options. Both my business partner and I are very easy to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Gene Eidelman. I respond. So really, and then we're on Instagram and Facebook and all of the media. So really just reaching out and not to be afraid to ask a question, if it's not on the website. We've now been asked Every time I think we've been asked the craziest question, there's a new question that we haven't been asked for. So I really, we're entrepreneurs and we love working with entrepreneurs. So people in glamping and eco-resort industries, I find they're very entrepreneurial. They care about sustainability. They're our kinds of people. So we really respond very quickly, and let's do something cool together. It's a great opportunity. And again, I'm hoping that with lower interest rates, now you see major hotel chains, and Marriott just bought somebody in the industry. Hyatt and Hilton now provide reservations to glamping resorts. So I really think we're at the very, very beginning of incredible growth, because just staying in the hotel and paying $400 and being in a urban zoo where you can't get out and just everything is expensive, that is not the way to vacation. So I really believe the industry has a very bright future and want to be part of it.
Gene, thank you just again so much for your time today. Congratulations on all of the recent awards and accolades and all of the money you've been able to raise and all the success that we know you'll have moving forward.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your interest and your support, and hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gene.